Yo, what is up everybody, it's Uchiha. Welcome back to another Naruto reaction video here today. And today we got a very intriguing and interesting video by the great Swagkage, and as you can tell by the title, it is Why the Uchiha Clan is So Overpowered. Now folks, it is obvious that the Uchiha clan is one of the more powerful clans within the Naruto verse, and one of the more loved clans by the Naruto fandom. And to sum it up shortly, the source of power that makes the Uchiha so great within the Naruto verse is the power they receive from soul-breaking hatred, or conversely, soul building love. So these Uchiha feel emotions on a very, very deep level. I would argue deeper than almost any other clan within the Naruto verse, and due to that, their eyes react to that kind of emotion. So trauma or great love, or whatever it is, it fuels their power. That's why you see people like Madara filled with hate, Obito obviously filled with hate. Conversely, you see people like Shisui, who's filled with love and compassion and wanted to help the Leaf as a whole, not just the Uchiha, during times of trials and tribulations for the Uchiha clan before its extermination. So this is a very interesting topic. I'm very interested to see what Swag has to say about this one. But before I begin, I know it's really appreciated. Hit that like button, turn on bell notifications to stay updated with yours truly. And if you're new and you enjoy and you mess with the kid, make sure to hit that sub button, man, because once you become part of the family forever. Let's not waste any more time. Screen. See what Swag has to say today.
You know, Swagkage, I really do like your channel, but I'm gonna give you a criticism I'm sure you never heard before. You really get on my nerves when you like the Uchiha the way you do. Like, you got Madara and Itachi's dick buried in your throat, Sasuke's ball sack dragging across your face, and you really just don't seem to know what you're talking about. I know nobody's ever brought this to your attention before. It's just something you might want to consider, because it's really annoying.
Now, I want you guys to do me a favor. Put yourself in my shoes and try and imagine waking up every day and hearing somebody say something like this to you at least 3 times daily for about a year. For those of you without very active imaginations who aren't really able to grasp what this might lead to, you might start developing some pretty terrible urges to do things like shove a nail gun down your throat and start firing, walk into oncoming traffic, drink an entire gallon of glue, jump off of a 15-story building, among other things of the same nature. There are probably a bunch of other symptoms that I have yet to discover. So for the sake of my mental and physical health, I think that I ought to at least attempt to put a stop to all of the Uchiha bias comments that I've been receiving for the past year plus, give or take, or at the very least ever since I started doing versus battle videos. Now, one thing that I should make clear before we get started is that I'm not just making this video to defend my stances on various versus battles. See, the fact that I received so many of these comments in the first place is an indication that there are a whole lot of people who don't seem to understand just how overpowered the members of this clan are.
Correct.
I figured it would do the community some good if I made a video examining that. Now, before we can get into the topic at hand, I need to establish which members of the Uchiha clan had a lot of story significance. In order to determine that, I need to take a look at each member of the clan and ask myself a yes or no question. Did this character's actions have a heavy, direct impact on the overall Naruto narrative? Now, there are 4 characters who fit this description: Sasuke, Itachi, Madara, and Obito.
Of course.
Now, let's take a look at each of these characters individually to get a better idea of why they're so important. Sasuke is a main character. I'm pretty sure I don't even need to go into detail to explain his importance. Now, Naruto, like many other series that have a lot of main characters, sort of has a hierarchy for its main cast, and what I mean by that is there are some main characters that are more important than others. Sasuke is at the very tippity top of the Naruto main character totem pole, right next to the character the series is named after, Naruto Uzumaki. So while there are plenty of other main characters like Sakura, Kakashi, and less important Sai, the rest of the Konoha 11, and so on, Sasuke is particularly important. So important, as a matter of fact, that there are a handful of chapters where Kishimoto takes the camera away from Naruto and focuses it on Sasuke for a rather extensive period of time. While Kishimoto does focus on more than
during his Taka days, correct,
and gives pretty much every character in the series a pretty lengthy backstory, Sasuke is without a doubt one of only 2 characters he's chosen to focus on as much as he has. Next up, we have Itachi, who's Sasuke's brother, and as I just explained, Sasuke is one of the most important characters in the entire series. Now, this on its own alone wouldn't be enough to automatically make Itachi significant, but for the first 2/3 of the series, killing Itachi was Sasuke's only goal. Getting strong enough to kill this guy was his only motivation up until halfway through the Pain arc, and there are a whole lot of plot points that revolved around the conflict between these two. As a matter of fact, this ended up spawning an entire arc that had just about nothing to do with Itachi, that being the Sasuke retrieval arc, where Sasuke left the village in order to train with Orochimaru so he could become strong enough to take Itachi out, which is pretty bizarre upon closer examination because, again, this entire story arc has pretty much nothing to do with him. Like, don't even try naming a connection between Kimimaro and Itachi. There is none. It doesn't exist. Now, Madara and Obito are two characters that you can examine together because they both fulfill pretty much the same purpose, that being acting as the story's final villains. As a result, they are both automatically incredibly important members of the cast, with
and incredibly
just
powerful.
as much significance as Itachi and Sasuke.
Right.
I want you to ask yourself what all four of these characters have in common. The answer is that the plot demands they be strong. For one reason or another, all four of these characters have to be overpowered or else the story falls apart. Sasuke is Naruto's rival, and he exists to be stronger than him. At least throughout the beginning of the series, the only reason Sasuke is there is to give Naruto something to work towards.
Correct.
As a result, he has to be really strong. Meanwhile, Itachi serves the exact same purpose, but for Sasuke, so he has to be even more overpowered. See, for the first 2/3 of the series, because of the type of character Itachi was, he had to be one of the strongest, if not the strongest member of the core cast. And this is because he was an international criminal and a menace to a lot of people, so if Kishimoto introduced somebody capable of beating him, chances are they would do it, and that would end up robbing one of his main characters of one of their most important achievements. Killing his older brother and subsequently realizing that he wasn't the person he thought he was is one of the most important moments for Sasuke as a character, and ends up defining
extremely significant moment.
Madara and Obito are as strong as they are for obvious reasons. As the final villains of the story, especially given the circumstances that required they fight literally every other ninja on the planet at once,
literally.
They had to be absurdly powerful, or else it would have been way too easy for Kishimoto to wrap things up in the end. Plus, Madara, and I guess Obito as well, had hundreds of chapters of build-up to live up to. Madara because his name kept getting thrown around by a multitude of characters, and Obito because he masqueraded as Madara for a very long time, and also operated as the series' main villain from behind the scenes for a while. Trust me, if these two weren't outrageously powerful, people would have been disappointed. It just would have felt underwhelming. The reason I'm explaining all of this is to let people know that these characters aren't inherently overpowered just because they're Uchiha. It's instead because they're extremely important to the story. As a matter of fact, I'd venture to say that it's the opposite, that the Uchiha clan only gets as much hype as it does because 4 of its members were such important characters.
Right.
Like, originally, the members of the Hyuga clan were supposed to be top dog, if you remember back to part 1 when they were introduced, but none of the Hyuga ended up being incredibly important. Neji got relegated to the role of side character, and Hinata didn't really become important until her romance with Naruto became a narrative focal point, so hopefully you're starting to see why the clan seemed a lot less imposing in Shippuden than it did in part 1. And if you want some more evidence for what I'm talking about, just go and rewatch the whole series, and you won't be able to find a single Uchiha outside of the 4 I've mentioned anywhere to be seen. Outside of flashbacks, they don't show up. And even the ones that do appear in flashbacks don't do anything and don't seem to be too terribly powerful. Now this is important because the fact that all 4 Uchiha who do anything within the boundaries of the main series are top tier characters with a lot of focus placed on them makes it seem like the clan in general is a lot more powerful and a lot more important than it actually is. Since every Uchiha we see is a fucking badass, we as audience members can't be faulted for just kind of assuming that that's how every member of the clan is, when in reality that's not the case. Now if you do choose to rewatch the series this way, you're gonna notice a theme, and that is that Kishimoto likes to play favorites with his characters. This is a pretty bad mistake for an author to make, especially when they go about it the same way Kishimoto does, and I am willing to admit that despite how much I love this series. See, it's inevitable for an author to grow attached to certain characters of theirs in particular over the course of writing their story. It's totally understandable, but the way Kishimoto chooses to display this favoritism is generally at the expense of everybody else. Now let me elaborate on what I just said, because this is a bit of a complicated issue to discuss.
Alright, so we're about halfway through the video. I definitely want to give my 2 cents. So basically, what I'm getting from this video is Swag is implying that the sole reason, or at least one of the major key reasons why the Uchiha clan seems so overpowered to the eyes of the viewer is because Kishimoto made a point of emphasis to show what these people could do, right? Particularly the main 4, Itachi, Sasuke, Obito, Madara, right? And those are 4 very significant characters. So with the heavy emphasis on these characters, it gives us the impression that the entire Uchiha clan is similar in stature, in power, in ability. Now, obviously, we're not going to think, oh, all the Uchiha are this strong. They're all as strong as Sasuke. Obviously not. But it gives us this impression that all the Uchiha clan are to be respected. Like, that they are an upper tier clan, right? And I think Swag's making a good point. Kishimoto obviously is going to have favoritism, right? In any anime, there's favoritism. The main characters are favored because they're the main characters of the anime, right? So you get more development, right, on these characters, contrary to other characters like Neji from the Hyuga clan, or, you know, Shikamaru from the Nara clan. So because of that, there's going to be a byproduct of us having the impression that these clans that are so heavily emphasized are stronger than the clans that are less explored, right, compared to these. So that's what happens, right? Naruto, Uzumaki clan, we respect them, clearly. I mean, they had Nagato, they had Naruto, and even Karin, to some extent, is respected due to her sensory abilities. The Uchiha clan, I mean, there's nothing else I can say about that. The Senju clan, Hashirama, Tobirama, right? Obviously, we're going to respect that clan because of the heavy emphasis on that clan, with them having the first Hokage, who was Harold, the god of shinobi, during his time, right? And even Kakashi's clan, most likely. Kakashi and his father, the White Fang of the Leaf, the Hatake, right? They're probably highly respected due to Kakashi and due to his father, who was a monster back in the day. They say that he was even above the legendary Sannin at the time. I believe there's statements on that. People have said so throughout the anime. So obviously those clans are going to be much more respected than the Hyuga clan, right? In part 1, the Hyuga clan got its due diligence, right? Neji looked like a monster. He was the #1 recruit in the Chunin exams, right? And he was bodying everyone in the preliminaries in the forest, right? But after part 1, we got to Shippuden, and Kishimoto began to emphasize more on the main cast: Sakura, Naruto, Sasuke, Kakashi, Itachi, right? Obito, who was masked as Madara, which was a very nice plot device, I might add, by Kishimoto. So with them being emphasized, the care and the respect and the thought of these other clans disappeared. Hyuga's, Nara's, Choji's clan, all those other clans, because of the favoritism. So I think Swag is approaching this the right way, and I agree. I think this is exactly why people believe the Uchiha clan overall is so overpowered. But let's continue.
There are a lot of factors to this problem. The first of these is the fact that Naruto is very fast-paced. Despite the fact that it's 72 volumes long, a lot tends to happen over short periods of time.
Right.
The Land of Waves arc is only 4 volumes long, and this is a link that many of the other arcs throughout the series share. To put this into perspective as effectively as I possibly can, Shippuden starts at volume 28. Jiraiya vs. Pain takes place in volume 41. In other words, the Kazekage rescue arc, the Orochimaru and Sasuke arc, the Hidan and Kakazu arc, and the Itachi pursuit arc all take place over the course of 13 volumes.
Crazy.
That's a lot of stuff to cram into a relatively short amount
Agreed.
of space. Kishimoto's also extremely ambitious. He likes to introduce a bunch of characters and a bunch of ideas all at once, all while trying to keep the story moving forward. Now, because of this, he runs into a problem where he has so many characters to work with that there is no conceivable way for him to focus on all of them, at least without causing the story to come to a grinding halt.
I agree.
In any series, as you progress through it, you expect a very clear sense of progression, and in shonen, this sense of progression typically comes from a progressive increase in the power of the characters. Now, as I've established, Naruto is very fast-paced, so this progression happens very, very quickly. For instance, in just 19 volumes, Naruto goes from being incapable of performing even basic ninjutsu to mastering the summoning jutsu, which allows him to summon a Sannin-level sage creature, the multi-shadow clone jutsu, an A-rank ninjutsu that even Jonin struggled to master, and the Rasengan, a legendary ninjutsu known only by the 4th Hokage and a member of the 3 legendary Sannin, Jiraiya.
Correct.
Also, by the end of the second arc, you have ridiculous shit happening like Gaara transforming into a tailed beast and Orochimaru reanimating the first 2 Hokage in order to assassinate the 3rd Hokage. So with insanely quick progression like this, it's just not possible for Kishimoto to focus on every member of the cast.
I agree.
Here. He has to keep the story moving forward somehow, so like I said, he plays favorites. He has some characters progress more quickly than others, and the 2 that feel the effects of this most strongly are Naruto and Sasuke. Now,
Of course.
in the moment, their development does tend to feel very natural. They become stronger, faster, more durable, and learn new jutsu, just as every shinobi should. But when looking at it in hindsight, because Kishimoto focuses on the two of them so heavily, the amount of growth the two of them experience dwarfs that of the other characters, and that's not surprising, not to anybody who's watched the series, but it is relevant to this video. Now, because Kishimoto has a habit of introducing a ton of new characters that he has no intention of developing, Naruto and Sasuke seem to blaze past everybody. Now, initially, this isn't much of a problem because at the beginning of the series, they're both low-level shinobi. They're Genin, and they have mentors that are much stronger than both of them. But eventually, as things tend to go in shonen, the two of them manage to surpass all of their former mentors, and this is where the problem comes in. Kishimoto has to make villains stronger than or relative to the strength of both of them so that neither of them breeze through any challenges they're met with, and as a result of this, everybody that they've surpassed starts to get left behind as the villains become stronger and stronger. This eventually reached the point where Sasuke was fighting the fucking 5 Kage. One arc before, Naruto was fighting alongside those same Kage against reanimated versions of some of the past 5 Kage and a bunch of other Kage level enemies. Now, of course, these were not the final villains of the story, so inevitably the characters were going to have to run into a villain strong enough to act as a roadblock for all of these Kage level fighters. Kishimoto introduced 2 villains to fill this role, and both of them happened to be Uchiha. Now, there was another main villain who was at the very least temporarily on the same side as Madara and Obito. That was Kabuto. Now, I assume Kishimoto made Kabuto so powerful because he wanted to give Sasuke an opponent while Naruto was off fighting Tobi, and it obviously couldn't be Madara because he'd been hyping Madara up for fucking eons, and if Sasuke, another Uchiha, one who was only like 16 or 17 at that, came along and got rid of him, well, that wouldn't be very satisfying. As a matter of fact, that would be stupid. But then he must have realized that Kabuto was way too powerful for Sasuke to take on alone. But he couldn't think of anybody that Sasuke would ally himself with, so he decided to break Itachi free of the Edo Tensei and
brilliant. That was a brilliant narrative choice.
Which further contributed to the problem I'm talking about today. 2 of the series' final villains were Uchiha. The only non-Uchiha was taken out by 2 Uchiha. And incidentally, the 4 Uchiha I'm talking about are the only Uchiha characters in the whole series. So because of all of this, it sort of gives the audience an impression that the Uchiha clan in general is just really overpowered. This isn't helped by the fact that Shisui is also given a lot of background significance because apparently he has the 2 greatest Sharingan of all time. Sharingan so powerful that Danzo was able to control Mifune with one of them. He claims he would have been able to control Obito with the same eye, and Itachi was able to break free of Kabuto's control using Kodo Amatsukami. So even though he doesn't even show up outside of flashbacks, Shisui still has a pretty strong presence in the series, which sort of adds credence to the idea that Kishimoto really liked the Uchiha. Another thing that doesn't really help is the fact that Obito and Madara are on the opposite side of Sasuke, and there was also a time where Sasuke and Itachi opposed one another, and so this sort of created a vicious cycle of progression where Kishimoto took powers or attributes that he'd given to one Uchiha and decided, well, because they have it, now this other Uchiha has to have it too. For instance, I have a feeling that the Susanoo started out as an Itachi exclusive ability, and it was only when Kishimoto was trying to think of ways to make Sasuke stronger that he went, hey, actually, it'd be cool if I gave that to Sasuke too, and then as a result of that,
that's a fair assumption.
And it became this clan-wide ability that anybody could potentially unlock, but nobody really did. Then Madara had his super special Susanoo, the perfect Susanoo, and because of that, Kishimoto was like, well, I guess I gotta eventually give Sasuke a perfect Susanoo, and while I'm at it, since Madara has a Rinnegan, I guess I gotta give Sasuke one too. That sort of thing. Now, I haven't really gone into detail about how each Uchiha is overpowered by analyzing their moveset. I guess if you guys want a video of me doing that, then sure, leave a request for it in the comments and I'll get to it in the future. But in this video, I just wanted to focus on the narrative reasons why they ended up being as OP as they are. They're all really tightly connected, so when one gets stronger, so does the other, and hopefully this video made it easier for you to see that.
This is a great video.
That's all from me.
Great video by Swag as always.
Talk to you later. Swagkage out. Bye.
Peace out, Swag. Alright, there you guys have it, folks. Sorry. There you guys have it. Definitely got my 2 cents on that. So, the Uchiha clan, right? One of the most highly favored and liked clans in the entire Naruto verse. Quite possibly the most favored. Right? They have Sasuke, great character. Itachi, my personal favorite character. Madara, one of my personal favorite characters. Obito, another monster. So, Kishimoto definitely made it a point of emphasis to display the legit and absolute power that some of these Uchihas possess, right? Especially in Part 2, Shippuden, and the War Arc, all of that. We got to see what these Uchiha are capable of. And because of that, rightfully so, we all assume that the entire Uchiha clan is a clan to be reckoned with. Now, is that a dumb assumption? I don't think so, because there's other characters that are pretty powerful as well. Fugaku, Shisui, Madara's, I'm sure Madara's brother. It's not crazy to think that the Uchiha clan in general, right, is above the average shinobi, right? So take an average Uchiha. Take an average shinobi from any other clan, besides the Senju clan. We would assume that the Uchiha average shinobi, who's average in his own clan, or her own clan, is superior to an average shinobi that's not in that clan. I think that's fair to assume, right? I think genetically, if you're an Uchiha, you have advantages that other clans don't, right? You have the ability to use a Dojutsu Kekkei Genkai, the Sharingan, right? And when you go through great trauma or great love, your power is amplified exponentially, right? Now, Kishimoto obviously is going to put emphasis on the main characters, right? So I want to talk about Naruto and Sasuke. And I know Naruto's not an Uchiha, but what I like to say about those two is their power scaling progression progressed in a way that a quadratic function does. So if you're a math person or not, a quadratic function basically goes in a parabolic type of shape. So it starts kind of flat, and then boom. That's how I like to look at their power progression, their power scaling progression, right? Because in part one, they were pretty, below or above most of the other genin, right? Lee, Neji, Gaara, Kankuro, Tenten, Choji, all of them. They're all around the same level, right? Gaara was probably up here. Neji was probably up here. Sasuke was like right below them. Naruto was probably a little below. All right, so in part one, their power progression was around the same or relative to everybody else's, right? And then once you get to part two, everyone stays here. Boom! Naruto and Sasuke take off. Particularly Sasuke at the very beginning of Shippuden. He took off. Training with Orochimaru, gaining the ability to use version 2 of the curse mark. His shit went like this. So his power went boom, like a quadratic function. Naruto's took a little bit longer, right? But as soon as he learned the Rasen Shuriken, Sage Mode, his as well went boom. I mean, look at the fight with Pain. He was literally the only individual in the entire Konoha village that had a fucking chance. Everyone else was like, back the fuck up. Shikamaru's dad, Shikaku, right, was like, dude, don't even mess with him. He's in a completely different scale. He's in another level. Don't even mess with him. No, none of us would even help. Would be a fucking burden. That just highly illuminates the fact that Naruto's power scaling progression was light years beyond anybody else in that village at that time, including people that we highly respected. Kakashi lost to Pain, right? So that's what it was. Sasuke as well. Those guys just took off like a quadratic function. And Obito and Madara, right? They're already adults in our eyes. Like, we remember them mostly as adults. Obito had his filler as a kid and shit, but we remember them mostly as an adult. They're already insanely powerful. So they're already up here. In fact, they're higher. They're up here. You can't even see my hands because they're so powerful. So in the war arc, Kishimoto wanted to make the villains so astronomically and godly powerful that you would need an entire world army to deal with them. Two guys, Madara, Obito, had to be godly. They had to stand above everybody else, look down on them, and just say, I'm more powerful than all of you. You're all going to have to fight us at the same time to beat us. That's how powerful Kishimoto had to make them. Right? They were basically like two messiahs on top of a 10 tails. There were two messiahs, basically. They were gods. They were standing above everybody else, looking down on them, literally and figuratively, looking down on their asses for the majority of the war arc, until obviously Naruto and Sasuke got another boost in power, right? Thanks to Hagoromo giving them 6 past powers. That's when the tide changed. That's when they reached new heights, right? But up until that point, Kishimoto wanted to make sure I need to have 2 messiah-like individuals as villains, right? So I think it's very, very good by Kishimoto narratively that he chose to have Obito play the moderate part for so long. I think that was a brilliant plot device, honestly. I thought it was brilliantly done. When we didn't know who he was right back in the day, when Naruto was still going, right, when it was still brand new, I think that was brilliant. And then the introduction of Madara, amazing. It was all very well done. But I get the point of this video with Swag, right? Swag wanted to show, hey, the Uchiha clan might not be so powerful overall. We just have these 4 monsters being heavily emphasized by Kishimoto, right? And I think that's what Swag was trying to imply. Right? He was trying to put some doubt in those Uchiha tards, right? Those Uchiha tards. Those guys that love the Uchiha, wank them to fucking infinity, right? Saying that Itachi could solo Kage or whatever these Uchiha tards say, right? So Swag wanted to establish doubt, and I think he did a fair job, right? He didn't go outright and say, oh, the Uchiha are weak. Obviously they're not. I think it's safe to say they're genetically more gifted than almost any other clan in the Naruto verse, besides like the Senju or whatever. But I think this was a great video. I think Swag did a great job. I could talk about the Uchiha forever, right? They're my favorite clan, probably. Them and the Uzumaki, obviously with Naruto being an Uzumaki. But overall, I think Kishimoto did a great job with the Uchiha either way. I honestly don't mind the emphasis on these 4 characters. I think they're all brilliantly written, and they're brilliant characters in their own respect, right? They all represent lessons, trials, and tribulations that we live in the real world, right? With Itachi representing doing what's right no matter what it takes, even if it means hating yourself. Doing the right thing, right? Madara, this idea of duality, this idea of there being never-ending hatred and love in a vicious cycle, right? And the only way to break that is through the means of taking away free will. And that's a real philosophical viewpoint. Like some people, and I'm sure some philosophers, you know, that are very introspective, sit back and think, what if we had no free will? What if we were machine-like? Would the world be a better place? Would there be no crime? Would there be no suffering? Would there be no conflict? That's a real idea, man. That's a real fucking idea. And some people agree with that. Some people think, hey, we don't deserve free will because this duality of peace and hatred will always coexist due to us being imperfect in nature, due to us having emotions, with emotions being imperfect, with us being imperfect. Madara represents that. And even in Boruto, shit, it seems like he was right. Right? Think about it. Naruto established peace after the war arc, right? He established peace. It lasted a little bit, right? We see Boruto, we see the fillers in Boruto. But then what happens? Kinshiki and Momoshiki come to Earth. So this established peace that Naruto worked so hard to earn is once again tarnished by more conflict. And again, they defeat him. There's always more conflict because we live in an imperfect world. That's what Madara was trying to say. And that's what he represents. I don't want to rant too long on him, but I really mess with Madara's philosophy. Sasuke, he represents gaining power by any means necessary, right? And I think Itachi kind of tried to teach him this lesson, but didn't. He failed to do so. He said, power will corrupt you. Sasuke became corrupt. Gaining a little power. Orochimaru bit him on the neck. He became corrupt. Power can corrupt if it's not earned in a righteous manner. Naruto gained power in a righteous manner. So there's a beautiful dichotomy there. I think Sasuke represents that. And Obito, his is more superficial, right? He lost the one he loved, Rin, and he became a fucking worldwide terrorist. A worldwide terrorist. To the extent that most people thought he was Madara. So he represents the Uchiha, I think, to the fullest extent. The idea of what hatred could do to an Uchiha. Make you a worldwide S-ranked criminal. That's what he became. Because of hatred fueling his heart for many years. Right? So all these guys represent something great. Kishimoto did a great job painting this narrative of the Uchiha. And I know there's some people out there, and even me to an extent, that wish, hey man, I wish more people would have got their due diligence. Rock Lee had an amazing showcase in part 1 against Gaara, and then we don't really see him again. He doesn't really do shit. He has his fillers. He has his little moment in the war arc. He doesn't really do much there either. Neji had an amazing display in the preliminaries. Had a great fight with Naruto. And after that, downhill. Disappears. Like, not to be heard of again. He was, like, not relevant at all. So there's a lot of people that wish, including myself, if we could have seen more from these characters, them being developed more. But hey, Kishimoto can only do so much with a pen and a paper. We live in a finite world. You can't write about everybody. Swag can make sure to point that out, and I think he's right. You can't develop everyone that much. It's impossible. Kishimoto, like Swag said, is an ambitious writer. That makes him great. But the flaw in that is that with you introducing so many characters, there's going to be characters that are left out. That's just reality of the situation. Either way, I really don't think it takes away from the greatness of Naruto as an anime. Still god tier anime in my opinion, right? I think all the great animes have that to some extent. They're going to have characters that are just not shit. Dragon Ball with some of these characters. I'm sure there's many more examples you could find. But yeah, guys, that's my thoughts on it. I could talk all day about this. This is a very intriguing topic, but I hope you guys enjoyed the reaction, enjoyed my thoughts. Let me know what you think about the Uchiha. Do you think they're overpowered? Do you think that other clans should have got more time to shine? You let me know in the comments, folks. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for all the support, and I'll catch you in the next video. It's Jay the Great signing out. Peace.